to look on how to create a basic quiz on D2L. So again, this is the template that our board gives us, and you'll notice in this tab here, that this tabulation bar, we have something called quizzes, and yours might be in a different section, so you might have to look for that part. And under quizzes, it's pretty straightforward. Create a new quiz. There's a couple other things we can do. We're going to go right through the basic. Okay, and the first thing they ask you is property. So you do need to name the quiz in order to get into any of the other tabs. So we'll call this test 1. Okay. You can create a category for them. So maybe if I'm doing math, I want this to be a trig category for test 1. And I'd probably name it better, because after you get many quizzes, it can become difficult to find things if you don't have a system for naming. Okay. This is where we add quizzes. Or add questions. I prefer to do that at the very end of everything. I want to set my whole quiz up. So we can set up a description for the introduction if we want. Okay. We can set up a description for headers and footers along the quiz. Advanced options, we can set hints, disable the right click, disable page alerts. We can have it send us a notification email when a student does this. I would prefer not to, because if you get students running many quizzes, then you might be getting many actions, and they can become pretty complex. You can have it open at certain days, end at days. The conditional releases, I've made a whole different video about, because there's a lot you can do there. You can restrict the time limit, give them an alert when there's 5 minutes left. We can allow late submissions. There's all kinds of things, and really it's just reading through it. It'll also link us to assessments. Okay. Now assessments, you might want to link to a grade item, and we'll kind of talk about that in another video. Okay, but it's probably good. And you can allow for automatic export. So when a student finishes the quiz, once you've set this up, it'll automatically send that grade to their grade section, which is a good thing to do. You need to set this up before you're allowed to click this option. Okay. I also get it to allow automatic grading. That way students know exactly what their grade is as soon as they finish the quiz. A lot of my quizzes are unlimited. I let students write them over and over again so that they really get the idea. And you can play with which one you want them to show. I like the highest attempt for them to do the best. You can set objectives for the quiz. So under the objectives, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to write what the point of this quiz is. Here it is, and you can set up however you want to do that. The views of the quizzes vary quite a bit, and as we load, I'll kind of tell you about it. There's many different types of views as you go through. There's a default view, and I tend to go into and change my default each time. So one of the things I like them is I like them to show the questions, and I want them to show the answers at the end of the quiz. So this one shows the answers to users' responses, and again, it's really simply going through and reading what each of these does. You can show class average, distribution, all of that stuff. It's up to you. And finally, I would save that as my default. And finally, there's a report setup. And what a report setup is once the quizzes are all done, how do you want that information explained to you? How do you want it all tabulated? You can have it send automatically to certain people within your course. You can have it send strictly to the student, strictly to you. You can have tons of statistics, or just maybe just a final grade in the end. So as this loads, there we go, we'll add a report. So question stats, they'll do class averages and stuff, and I tend to really just go through all of these, and that way every tabulation that it will do for me is done. Okay. And you can read to see what each of these does. These question marks will explain it, and I always like it to be sent to myself, any other teachers in the course, and and if you want to add anybody else, you can obviously do that, and then you save. And I would call the report name test 1 report. Okay, so there we go. We've set up the quiz, which is in itself a daunting task, setting up all the properties page. We can finally set up a question. So we're going to add a question to our quiz here. And what you'll find is there's many types. I'll quickly talk about some of the brief ones. When we set it up, we can set up a section, or we can go to these. Random sections are good, because then when you add questions to a random section, you'll need to have a list of questions already to set that up. It will randomize the questions so every time a student reads it. So you have a choice of true and false, multiple choice, multiple select, and you can read them. These ones will all correct on its own. Long answer, short answers won't. Multi-short answer questions will not. Fill in the blanks. You can get the computer to correct it, but it's very case sensitive. It needs to be very, very exact. Matching will do it. Same with order. This is a very interesting one, especially if you're going to be in math, arithmetic questions, and significant figures. I'll make an entire video about that idea after. So we set one of these up, maybe a multiple choice. Okay, so we would title the question, trig question 1, and again, I would suggest that you really come up with some kind of system for saving questions. Maybe I want it worth a point. I would type the question in here. Here's my question. Oh, I didn't spell blah right. Okay. And I could insert an image, describe it. The enumeration, you can have it set up vertical, horizontal, drop down, and then I would set up my answers. Blah, answer 1. Blah, blah, answer 2. And again, you can have as many in a short answer as you want. Blah times 4 and no. Right? And then you can have each of them set up feedback in the end, right? And then you can have a total question feedback. Essentially, once that's done, you can preview your question, and it'll tell you, here's your question, here are the options. So maybe I choose that. This is how it would appear when grading it. Done. Now, I didn't, in this case, pick an answer, and you'll see the answers are essentially here, the weighting. I'll say that this one is worth, and you could break it. You could say this is 100%, so you get that and nothing else. You could say this is 80, and this one's really close. Maybe this is a 20%. We made our question, and say we want to see the general overview of the test. We come out to our left, and we hit our sidebar here. The general overview, I've duplicated this question, so we have our 2 questions here, and we can move their order, we can delete one. And we can edit the values of each of them. If I had a question bank, and if you build many, you can import questions from other quizzes to fill this out here. Okay, and we can edit all this information here. And that's the general idea to building a quiz.